metal shards, bone splinters, even rubber pieces. Believe it or not, all of these have turned up inside frozen chicken nuggets sold right here in America. These weren't mystery brands gathering dust in the back of the freezer aisle. They were bags with names we know, nuggets shaped like dinosaurs, labels with words like organic and family pack, the very products many of us have trusted to feed kids and grandkids on busy nights. I get it, chicken nuggets feel safe. They're quick, they're easy, the grandkids love them. But behind that golden crust, federal inspectors have found contamination, hidden fillers, and sodium levels that would shock you. In some cases, the government had to step in with full recalls. In others, they issued health alerts because the nuggets were already in our freezers. Today we're breaking it down 5 frozen chicken nuggets you should avoid at all costs. Be prepared because one of them might still be in your freezer right now. 1. Wegmans. Picture this. A grandmother in upstate New York is rushing through Wegmans on a cold January evening. She's tired, her arms are full, and she still has dinner to think about. In the freezer aisle, she spots a familiar red bag. Family pack fully cooked breaded chicken breast with rib meat. It's the Wegman store brand. Affordable, trusted, and just the thing to please the grandkids. She grabs it without a second thought, never imagining there could be anything dangerous inside. But that very product was at the heart of a federal health warning just days later. On January 27, 2025, the United States Department of Agriculture issued a public health alert for those very nuggets. The reason wasn't a minor misprint on the label or an extra dash of salt. It was bone fragments, hard, sharp pieces that turned up where only tender chicken was supposed to be. Inspectors didn't act on a hunch. They had multiple consumer complaints from real families who sat down to dinner and ended up biting into shards of bone. The warning covered 46-ounce bags with a best-by date of August 26, 2025. If you looked closely, the packages were stamped with establishment code P33944. These bags weren't limited to a single store or one city. They were shipped across the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. A wide swath of families who thought they were getting a reliable store brand. That's the part that stings. Wegmans isn't a faceless bargain chain. It's a regional giant with a reputation for quality. Loyal customers walk the aisles trusting that Wegmans branded foods are a safer, simpler choice. Many even believe that store brands mean more care and more oversight. But this recall pulled back the curtain on how things really work. Because behind that bright red bag was a factory code that told the real story, P33944. If that code sounds familiar, it's because the same facility had already been tied to a separate Class 1 recall months earlier, this time under the Perdue name after metal wire was discovered in their nuggets and tenders. Different logos, different price points, but the very same plant. The Wegmans recall proved a hard truth. What matters isn't always the brand on the front. It's the factory on the back. Imagine being that grandmother again. She bought a store brand product thinking she was sidestepping the risks of mass market names. Instead, she brought home the very same product line with the very same dangers, just dressed in different packaging. That's why this case felt like a betrayal. It struck at the heart of consumer trust. Bone fragments inside a frozen nugget might not sound dramatic compared to pathogens like salmonella, but picture the real impact. A child biting down, cutting a gum, breaking a tooth, or choking at the dinner table. These are the kinds of risks that inspectors take seriously, which is why they issued a health alert, even though the product was already pulled from shelves. The danger wasn't just for shoppers that week. It was for anyone who had a bag sitting quietly in their freezer at home. The Wegmans case is a reminder that trust in a brand can sometimes be misplaced. Shoppers lean on familiar names and family-friendly packaging, but those symbols don't always protect them from systemic failures in the food supply chain. And the code on the back, P33944, will show up again as this story unfolds. Because Wegmans wasn't the only one. Perdue, one of the biggest poultry names in America, built a special line to win over health-conscious shoppers. They called it Simply Smart Organics. The packaging showed bright greens, clean fonts, and words like organic and better for you. Parents could feel like they were doing the right thing choosing nuggets that looked a little less industrial, a little more natural. But behind that wholesome image was the same code, the same plant, and the same problems. On August 16, 2024, the United States Department of Agriculture announced a Class 1 recall on more than 167,000 pounds of Perdue's frozen nuggets and tenders. The reason: metal wire contamination. Not seasoning, not excess fat, but thin, sharp strands of wire mixed into products pitched as a premium choice for families. This wasn't a minor issue. Class 1 recalls mean there is a reasonable probability the food could cause serious health problems or even death. The details were precise: 22-ounce bags of Perdue Simply Smart Organics breaded chicken breast nuggets, stamped with a best by date of March 23, 2025. Each one marked with the now familiar code P33944. The same plant that produced the Wegman's bags. Inspectors confirmed complaints, and Perdue had to pull the products off shelves nationwide. The betrayal here isn't just about safety, it's about the price of trust. Shoppers who reached for Simply Smart Organics weren't bargain hunting. They were paying more often double the cost of a basic frozen nugget for the peace of mind that comes with the word organic. They believed they were buying a cleaner, safer alternative. But at the factory level, it was business as usual. The higher price tag didn't buy them extra protection. It bought them a shinier label. Perdue's marketing leaned hard into the idea of family health. Ads showed smiling kids, busy parents, and promises of wholesome meals. Yet the recall notice told another story: the food inside those cheerful bags was compromised by the same shortcuts and oversights as conventional nuggets. For parents trying to do better, it was a slap in the face. The larger system doesn't help. Federal inspectors can issue recalls, but they don't change how companies design their supply chains. When multiple brands share the same plant problems spread across products, the contamination wasn't isolated to Wegmans or Perdue. It was baked into the way the plant operated. And Perdue, with all its resources and reputation, still pushed Simply Smart nuggets out the door until consumers complained. Think of the parent who stretched the budget to buy organic nuggets believing they were safer for their kids. That confidence was broken the moment federal officials told them to check the freezer and throw the bag out. And if they flipped the package over, they would see the same plant number as the supposedly cheaper, riskier alternatives. That's the hidden motive exposed. A premium label doesn't always mean premium protection. Sometimes it's just premium profit. And for families who believed Simply Smart meant safety, the recall was a hard reminder you can't buy your way out of a broken system. And if you thought this was just about Perdue, think again. Because the very same plant code stamped on those organic nuggets is about to show up in another surprising place inside a premium subscription box many shoppers considered untouchable. 3 Butcher Box. What exactly are you buying when you pay for a premium subscription box of meat, peace of mind, higher standards, or just a story wrapped in cardboard and ice packs? That was the quiet promise of Butcher Box. Not just chicken in a bag, but chicken in a carefully chosen box arriving at your door, as if it were insulated from the flaws of the grocery aisle. For subscribers, it was never only about dinner, it was about confidence. Unfortunately, that confidence unraveled in August of 2024, when the United States Department of Agriculture announced a Class 1 recall, the most serious category. Inspectors had traced metal wire contamination to more than 167,000 pounds of frozen chicken products. Among them, ButcherBox organic gluten-free chicken breast nuggets. Each 22-ounce bag looked different from the bargain freezer packs. Yet the details on the back told another story: a best by date of March 23, 2025. A UPC code spelled out in black and white, and most telling of all, the establishment number P33944. The very same code that had already appeared on Wegman's family packs and Perdue's Simply Smart Organics. In other words, the nuggets in the subscription box shared the same assembly line as the nuggets stacked in supermarket freezers. For families, that discovery carried a particular sting. ButcherBox had built its reputation on separation. Separation from additives, from fillers, from the hazards of industrial shortcuts. The box on the porch was supposed to be proof of that distance. But the recall made clear there was no distance at all. The contamination wasn't an outlier of the grocery store, it was built into the same chain that supplied the subscription service. The effect is more than financial. People who stretch their budgets to pay for premium foods are doing more than buying calories. They are investing in reassurance. They are saying my household doesn't have to compromise. And when that investment collapses under the weight of a recall, the loss isn't measured only in dollars. It is measured in shaken faith, in the quiet realization that the box was not a guarantee but a disguise. Not every ButcherBox product was affected and many subscribers remained loyal, but the illusion of a sealed-off higher standard was pierced. The cardboard and branding had suggested insulation from the flaws of industrial food. In truth, it was the same system routed through the same plant, stamped with the same code. That is the deeper lesson here. Paying more can buy a story. It cannot buy a different factory. When the establishment number is the same, the risks are the same no matter how polished the packaging. For households that turn to ButcherBox as a way to rise above the compromises of the modern food system, this was a sobering moment. Because once again, the code P33944 connected premium to ordinary subscription to supermarket reassurance to risk. And if a premium subscription box can't keep its promises, what about the brands designed specifically for children? The ones shaped like dinosaurs, stamped with words like all natural and sold with a smile. 4 Yummy Dino Buddies. That's where Yummy Dino Buddies come in. For more than 20 years, these little nuggets have been a fixture in American freezers. They're sold in big bags, marketed with bold colors, and designed to turn dinner into playtime. Kids love them for the dinosaur shapes. Stegosaurus, T-Rex, Brontosaurus marching across the plate. Parents and grandparents love them because they feel harmless. A safe, easy option on busy nights. Heat them up, add some ketchup, and you've got a meal everyone recognizes. The box itself almost looks like a toy. Bright yellow backgrounds. Cartoon dinosaurs grinning at you. Even the name Dino Buddies suggests friendship, comfort, something you can trust. It's food dressed up as fun. For many families, that trust is the whole point. When the youngest members of the household are picky eaters, Dino Buddies are the fallback, the one food you know won't spark a battle. But behind the cheerful packaging, Yummy Dino Buddies have faced serious questions. Not only about safety, but about honesty. In December 2024, federal inspectors issued a public health alert on a seasonal batch of holiday nuggets. What they uncovered wasn't a contaminant inside the meat, but a failure before the food even reached store shelves. The shipment had crossed the border from Canada into the United States without the mandatory USDA reinspection. In plain terms, it skipped a step meant to protect American consumers. These nuggets weren't from some shadowy importer either. They were stacked in a Costco freezer in Goleta, California, marked with lot number 2, 41556 establishment, 348 Best By date November 6, 2026. And because the product was already sold before the issue was caught, officials warned that families might still have them sitting in their freezers weeks or months later. This wasn't the first red flag for the brand. Back in 2017, Yummy was forced to recall several products for undeclared milk allergens. That kind of oversight is especially dangerous for kids who are more likely to have food allergies. Parents who trusted the cheerful dinosaurs discovered that the label had left out a crucial warning. And in February 2025, a new challenge hit the company, a proposed class action lawsuit filed in New York. The claim that Yummy Dino Buddies bold 100%. All natural promise was misleading because the nuggets contain synthetic ingredients. The case hasn't been decided yet, but the very existence of the lawsuit forces families to pause and ask, what does natural really mean on a box of dinosaur nuggets? The contrast couldn't be sharper. On one side, smiling dinosaurs designed to charm children and reassure parents. On the other, inspection failures, allergen recalls, and now a courtroom fight over the truthfulness of the label. It's a collision of childhood innocence with the shortcuts of industrial food production. For parents and grandparents, the impact is unsettling. Choosing Dino Buddies feels like choosing safety. The playful shapes and cheerful packaging suggest something wholesome, even fun. The serving suggestions on the box show nuggets alongside apple slices and peas, framing them as part of a balanced plate. But the facts tell another story. Safety alerts, allergen lapses, and labeling disputes don't line up with the image of happy dinos marching across a dinner table. To be fair, Yummy Dino Buddies remain immensely popular. Millions of families buy them every year, and most never encounter a problem. That popularity is exactly what makes the issues matter. When a brand markets directly to kids, every slip carries more weight. The trust lost isn't just about food. It's about the promises adults make when they put that food in front of children, the unspoken pledge that the smiling dinosaurs can be trusted. And that's where the irony cuts deepest. The dinosaurs on the box may be make-believe, but the giant that comes next is very real. Tyson, the largest poultry producer in America, has faced recall after recall year after year. And unlike the dinos, this giant's record isn't fun at all. 5. Tyson. The story begins in 2016. That year, Tyson had to recall more than 132,000 pounds of chicken nuggets. The danger wasn't bacteria or spoiled meat, it was plastic. Hard blue pieces of plastic had been discovered inside the nuggets. Sharp enough to choke a child or cut a mouth, these bits of debris turned a convenient snack into a medical risk. Parents who thought they were serving something simple and safe ended up calling hotlines and checking lot numbers against recall notices. 3 years later, in 2019, the same nightmare returned, this time with a different face. Tyson recalled nearly 70,000 pounds of chicken strips for metal contamination. At least 3 families reported finding pieces of metal inside the food. Federal inspectors confirmed the complaints, and once again, Tyson issued a recall. These weren't fringe products, they were chicken strips, one of the company's most mainstream family-friendly offerings. Sold nationwide, trusted for years. And yet foreign material had made its way into thousands of pounds of product before anyone caught it. Then came November 4th, 2023. Tyson announced another Class 1 recall, the most serious category the United States Department of Agriculture can issue. Nearly 30,000 pounds of fun nuggets, the dinosaur-shaped nuggets sold in bright yellow bags, had to be pulled. The reason: metal fragments inside the food. This time, at least one injury had already been reported. The recall covered 29-ounce bags stamped with establishment number P7211 and a best buy date of September 4th, 2024. For families, this hit differently. Tyson Fun Nuggets aren't just any product, they're a childhood icon. Sold for decades, they appear on cafeteria trays and after-school snacks and at countless family dinners. The whole appeal of Fun Nuggets is that they're kid-friendly and safe. Parents trust them, not just because of the shapes, but because Tyson is supposed to be the reliable nationwide brand. When that product ends up on a Class 1 recall list, it doesn't feel like an accident. It feels like a failure of the very system families depend on. Viewed individually, these events could be chalked up as flukes. A plastic piece here, a shard of metal there, an isolated mistake. But taken together over nearly a decade, they form a disturbing pattern. 2016 plastic, 2019 metal, 2023 more metal, this time inside the very nuggets children know best. 3 recalls, 3 different years, all for the same type of problem: foreign objects in the food. That's why Tyson's case carries more weight than others. This isn't a niche brand with a small footprint. Tyson is America's largest poultry company. It supplies grocery stores, school cafeterias, and fast food chains. Its reach extends to nearly every household in some form. When Tyson fails, the impact spreads across the country. And when those failures repeat year after year, it suggests something deeper than coincidence. Consumers expect more from a company of Tyson's size. The logo has long symbolized scale, efficiency, and stability. If any brand had the resources to keep food safe from such basic hazards, it should have been Tyson. But time after time, recalls have only come after complaints, after families have already bought and served the food. The system works, but it works backward. Problems are caught only after the risk has already left the plant, entered stores, and in some cases landed on plates. It's true that Tyson follows the rules. The company issues recalls, cooperates with federal agencies, and notifies the public. But that compliance underscores the larger failure. A food system that relies on catching mistakes after the fact is not one built on prevention. It is a system built on reaction. And for families who have already taken a bite, that reaction comes too late. 3 recalls, 3 different years, 3 different batches of food, but the same story every time. With Tyson, it isn't about one unlucky mistake. It's about a system that keeps breaking down. And that's the truth every shopper deserves to know before they open the freezer door. After Tyson, it's hard not to feel worn out. Plastic metal recalls, lawsuits, the hits just kept coming. You look at the freezer aisle and wonder, is anything in here really safe? And for grandparents and parents, that worry cuts deep. This isn't about some abstract statistic. It's about the food we put in front of kids we love. Think about it. One week it's bone fragments. Another week, allergens left off the label. Then it's metal shards in nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. You start to lose trust. You start to wonder if feeding your family has become a gamble you never signed up for. But let's not stop there, because hidden in all that bad news is something worth holding on to. Not every brand has failed. A few have kept their promises. They've invested in safer practices, held to stricter standards, and proven that chicken nuggets don't have to come with a warning label. And that's where we turn next to names that shine a little brighter and deserve a place at the table. 6. Bell & Evans. There's one company that built its name by flipping that equation. Instead of rushing birds through crowded water baths, they slow the process down. Instead of hanging chickens upside down while still conscious, they invest in a system that lets them fall asleep first. That company is Bell & Evans. Based in Pennsylvania, Bell & Evans calls itself the pioneer of humane forward poultry. And it's not just a slogan. Walk through their hatchery and you'll see why. It was the first in the United States to be both organic certified and animal welfare certified. Chicks are given feed and water immediately after hatching instead of waiting hungry in crates. The company even built its system around natural light and gentler handling to reduce stress from day one. The process continues all the way through production. Instead of conventional stunning, Bell & Evans uses something called slow induction anesthesia, or SIA. Birds are exposed to gradual levels of carbon dioxide, and within a few minutes they lose consciousness while still in the same drawers they traveled in. They're never shackled awake, never watching what happens next. Animal welfare expert Temple Grandin has praised the system as one of the most advanced in the country. Then comes processing. While most big poultry companies dunk birds into chlorinated water baths, Bell & Evans uses a 100% air chill method. Each bird passes through cool circulating air. No shared water, no chemical soak. The company claims this prevents cross-contamination and locks in flavor. Independent reviewers have noted that the chicken simply tastes cleaner. But it isn't just process for process sake. It's a philosophy. Bell & Evans has spent years branding itself as the opposite of industrial shortcuts. No antibiotics, feed without junk additives, a public commitment to transparency. They even posted open commentary when fraudulent organic grain was discovered in the wider United States market, warning consumers about the risks to integrity in the supply chain. Of course, no brand is flawless. In 2015, some gluten-free nuggets produced by a co-packer were recalled due to undeclared allergens. And in 2024, diced chicken sold under the Bell & Evans label was pulled after listeria concerns, though that product came from another processor, not their own Pennsylvania facility. These reminders matter because no company is immune to supply chain risks. But compared to the string of recalls we just walked through with Tyson, the record here is far steadier. And that steadiness is what sets Bell & Evans apart. They don't just market welfare. They've invested in it, building facilities that outsiders can tour and experts can inspect. Their methods aren't about going faster, but about doing it differently. And in an industry where words like organic and humane are often marketing fluff, Bell & Evans has earned outside recognition not just from customers, but from specialists like Temple Grandin, who don't hand out praise lightly. For families, especially those trying to feed kids and grandkids, that difference matters. It doesn't mean you can turn your back on safety checks or skip paying attention to plant codes, but it does mean there are companies out there proving nuggets don't have to come with the same baggage as the big industrial names. Because if Wegman's, Perdue, ButcherBox, Yummy, and Tyson showed us the cracks in the system, Bell & Evans shows that there's another way forward, one built on care, patience, and a willingness to do things the hard way. And as we turn to the final name on our list, the story continues. Because Bell & Evans isn't alone in raising the standard. 7. Applegate. Right before we end the video, think back to how nuggets used to feel. They were the guilty pleasure food, easy, tasty, but never something you bragged about serving. Parents would slide them into the oven on a busy night, but in the back of their mind there was always that little sting of guilt. Applegate looked at that guilt and asked a simple question: what if nuggets didn't have to be that way? What if you could serve them without compromise? That question turned into a mission the company still puts front and center today: changing the meat we eat. The philosophy is straightforward: no antibiotics ever. Feed made without animal byproducts. Third-party animal welfare certifications like Certified Humane and GAP. And a focus on ingredients you can actually recognize. For families trying to say yes to nuggets while still keeping their values intact, Applegate was a breath of fresh air. But this isn't just about labels. Applegate publishes public mission reports every year, measuring itself against goals for cleaner sourcing, better animal treatment, and even environmental change. They don't just talk about organic or natural in abstract terms. They connect it to regenerative farming, to non-GMO feed, and to a broader culture of food reform. In 2025, for example, Applegate hit a milestone early, transitioning all of its beef hot dogs to certified regenerative beef. It wasn't a marketing stunt. It was proof that the company was investing in practices designed to last for the long run. And for parents and grandparents, that philosophy matters most when it hits the dinner table. Applegate's chicken nuggets became one of the first mainstream yes foods. Yes, they're quick. Yes, they taste like the nuggets kids already love. But yes, they also fit into a bigger standard of eating better. In a world where nuggets often feel like shortcuts, Applegate turned them into a statement you don't have to give up values to give kids what they want. Of course, no company is spotless. Back in 2016, Applegate Naturals chicken nuggets were recalled for possible plastic contamination. They were produced at a Perdue facility, not by Applegate itself, but the brand carried the headline. It's an important reminder that no label makes a product immune to the risks of industrial processing. But in the years since Applegate's record has been steady, and its public reporting means families can see for themselves where the company stands. That transparency has become a big part of why Applegate earns trust. They don't hide the supply chain. They put their commitments out where people can check, even criticize. And in a food world where all natural too often feels like a hollow phrase, that openness matters. What sets them apart is how personal it feels. Bell & Evans leans on technology and facility design. Tyson leans on scale. Applegate leans on the everyday parent who wants to make a better choice without turning dinner into a lecture. That's why their slogan resonates. It isn't just about meat. It's about a culture shift away from guilt towards something families can feel good about serving. For an older generation watching grandkids grow up, that shift is powerful. Nuggets don't have to mean cutting corners. They can be part of a bigger picture where convenience and conscience finally sit at the same table. And that's the hopeful note this journey leaves us on. Because after all the recalls, the lawsuits, the broken promises, it's worth remembering change is possible. So we've covered a lot of ground. From hidden metal shards to misleading labels, it's clear the freezer aisle isn't as simple as it looks. But it's also not hopeless. Because alongside the recalls and the lawsuits, there are companies proving that nuggets can be done differently. Brands like Bell & Evans and Applegate remind us that change is possible. They show that animal welfare transparency and better sourcing aren't dreams. And that's the takeaway. As shoppers, parents, and grandparents, we aren't powerless. Every time we read a label, check a plant code, or choose a company that earns our trust, we send a message. We protect the people we love. The freezer aisle will always have risks. But it also holds choices. And when we choose wisely, we do more than put dinner on the table. We help push the whole system forward.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.